Today, I'm very happy to be joined by the great field reporter for the World Series champion, Houston Astros, a fan favorite, Julia Morales. Thank you so much for joining. Julia, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm so good. Thanks for having me. Times have finally slowed down since the Astros have won the World Series, and the celebration, of course, continues. But it's nice to finally have an off season before we get ready for 2023.
Yeah, for sure. Super excited. It was such a perfect season, perfect ending for this team, and so glad that I was able to have you on my show. And I'm wondering now that you're in the off season, what are some things that you like to do during free time?
Well, it's nice to just kind of reconnect with everyone. What people may not know about my job is, I travel with the team and I'm with them from spring training throughout the postseason. I miss a lot of things and I don't get a lot of time to spend with my family with so many games on back-to-back days. There's just not a lot of time to leave town or go visit friends or, it's just really hard and it's a part of it. It's a part of the sacrifice. Every player goes through it, every coach goes through it. And those of us who are around the game and, any kind of capacity like the broadcast team or the media relations, we also deal with it as well. So for me, reconnecting with my husband, my kid, my family, my parents, just kind of spending that quality time that I miss out on is extremely for me. Catching up with friends, and then of course it's always the holidays. So I'm really fortunate in that I'm a huge Christmas person. I love Thanksgiving as well. So it's nice that I don't have to work a ton around the holidays, and I can really just enjoy and do some fun stuff. But I do some Rockets, so it's not all free time. I do help out with some Rockets games. I'll host the pre and post game show for them as well. Just kind of keep me in the mix. I enjoy doing those games. It's definitely a different speed, a different pace. They're in a different era as well as they try to rebuild. So it's exciting to kind of learn about the young guys and see where that team is going. But that's what I've been up to lately.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's always great to, spend time with family, and that's really awesome that you're able to do that during the off season. And the Astros really made some moves already. Jose Abreu was the big name that they got a couple weeks back. What are your thoughts on that move, and how do you think it really helps out the Astros?
It's a huge signing. And, as I think back over the last few years, really, it's been a lot of years now. Every time that the Astros have faced the White Sox, it started with Abreu, right? And it's like the scouting report started with him. And I also always noticed how our players would gravitate towards him. They would go talk to him. Of course, we have some Cuban guys on our team who were big fans of him and loved talking to him. There's a huge amount of respect for him. And so, clubhouse guy, check. It's a guy that you want on your team. I think there's been some really hard times, really interesting times in that organization and that franchise here lately. And so I can't even imagine what it's going to be like for him to get in a situation that's great, that's happy, a clubhouse that's that's as ours is as far as culture and chemistry. And then the dude can just flat out hit, right? And he can hit against the Astros, and we have the best pitching on the planet. So I think that that's going to be exciting too, to see what he can do with his bat and make our lineup better. It's just kind of hard to believe, but I think he will. And his ability to hit at Minute Maid Park was always something that stood out to me. It was like every time he showed up to Minute Maid Park, I'd be like, all right, this dude's gonna get a hit. Just every time he walked up to the plate, and he would. But he's always hit in an environment and in also in a division that can be tough, right? Cold cities and like I just think about him being very comfortable in our division, in our ballpark. A guy who's obviously very happy to come here because he chose to be here, and then for years to come, right? And so I just can't wait. I think an MVP guy. Now he's in a setting where I think he can really kind of spread his wings, which is scary to think just what he could do now. So yeah, that's a huge move by the Astros, and there's still more to come. Obviously, there's some areas that the Astros and their ownership, and of course the front office would like to improve upon. So that's what we're looking for next.
Yeah, for sure. I think Abreu is just going to be so perfect in this lineup. People were like 1 through 6. This team is like stacked, and the infield is really, really strong now. Abreu is also pretty good glove. He may not have won the Gold Glove, but
Yep.
he's still pretty good over there. And I think the Astros are just so strong at pretty much every position. There are a couple of spots, obviously, but I mean that bullpen was incredible this season. That .83 ERA was the lowest ever by any team. I mean, what can you say about that bullpen? I mean, it was so crucial to the success.
Yeah, they were a really dynamic group. And thinking about who was in that bullpen, it was a good mix of guys with different stuff, right? It like all worked together. And I think back to the beginning of the year, signing Hector Neris was a huge signing. It was a really important move for the Astros to start the season. And Hector kind of said it best. He was like, I want to be on this team. This is the team that wins. This is the team that develops pitchers. And at the point of his career, he's towards the end. He's not done yet, but like he's towards the end of his career, put in a lot of years so far. He wants to be on a winning team and he wants to win a championship. So for all that to come into fruition for him was pretty incredible, but he was really good. And of course, Ryan Stanek having a career year in the way that he did, lowest ERA for him, I think, in franchise history. And Ryan Presley was just shut down. And the bullpen doesn't get enough love. We talk about the bullpen. We say that
Yeah,
a lot, but like each individual guy, they don't get talked about enough. And that's just the way it is in baseball and in sports. When kind of like the offensive line, right? You say the offensive
yeah,
line, but you don't go player by player on what they did. And so, Ryan Presley to win a World Series was obviously huge for him, but these guys each individually did so much, so many good things throughout the year. They were just kind of boring. So as a sideline reporter, and that's the biggest compliment ever for a bullpen. But like as a sideline reporter, there just wasn't a lot of stories because they were just good every night, right? Like every day it was just like, all right, Presley, you're just cruising along. Another 5 saves in the last couple of weeks. It was just like, what do you ask them? Where do you go with this? You just talk about how good they are. You can't talk about them though without talking about the starting staff and how good they were and how well they set them up. The starting staff obviously had a good system with the 6-man rotation out of the gate. They all kind of eased those guys in, trying to keep them all healthy coming off of, the lockout and the shortened spring training. So there was definitely a plan, but all that trickled down into the bullpen and had them set up for success as well. And they'll tell you that just as quickly as anyone else. Like this is a team sport, and that's why these two work together. And then JV doesn't have a Cy Young if he doesn't have a good, reliever coming in and saving him in a certain situation. And Fromber, and I mean, how many times did Fromber get helped? I mean, they work together so well, and that's what makes a championship team, right? It's like everyone's working together and everyone's helping each other out. But the bullpen definitely strong. Not going to be a lot of changes there. In fact, like Seth Martinez, like where does he go? Guys like that were just so impressive that didn't even get to pitch enough. They have some good depth as well, so a lot to look forward to in the bullpen.
yeah, 100% agree. And it's all about the starters, setting it up and then the bullpen just closing it down. And they did that so well. And you mentioned JV, and, he signed with the Mets, moved on from the Astros, but definitely wish him best of luck wherever his journey goes. But want to hear your thoughts on Justin Verlander being as part of the Astros this past season. What do you think he brought overall to the team besides his great performances on the mound?
Yeah, there's just like it's like a different feel when there's a Justin Verlander on your team. And I think what made, his contract negotiations and every time his contract would come up so fascinating is the teams that would come after him with how much money. He's just the cream of the crop, he's the best of the best. So it was always fun to watch how things would play out. Of course, that worked out well for the Astros the last few times that happened. Obviously, we wish him well, like you said. Can't wait to see how his career ends up and just how many more years he does it. Because I just have watched him so closely and know the drive that he has and what he's done to get himself to this point. He's he was just he was so important in what the team did in the regular season, especially, and just the way that they did it. I mean, I thought what was interesting, the perspective story was big this year on how he's coming off a couple of years where he didn't pitch, and of course his family's different, and he wanted to have this different feel, or just kind of like the different way of looking at the game moving forward. And so I thought what was interesting is early on in the season on the bus, on the plane, you'd see him talking to other pitchers, and I could hear him talking about pitches and how, like, who they were facing. I mean, it's just like he was nonstop, but not just by himself. He was like sharing the information with his teammates, and it was different. It was all very different. And so whenever he talked about wanting to have that different perspective and go about it a different way, it was real. It was very real. I saw it. And that led to good things for other guys, right? Everyone started looking at things the way he did, and not that it maybe worked for them, or it's not like they went out and changed their entire repertoire because he said so. It was just like they just learned from it and picked up things, and from a Hall of Famer, anything he says, you should listen, right? He was huge. I congrats to him and the Cy Young. And one of my favorite interviews of all time is interviewing him after his third career no hitter. I will always remember that and cherish that interview. So yeah, I can't wait to see what all is on his Hall of Fame plaque whenever he gets done, because he's certainly headed that way.
Yeah, for sure. He played such a huge part in the two championships for Houston, and he'll be trying to do something with New York as well. And Jeremy Pena was just so outstanding, also in trying to help us win that championship. He was MVP, of course, and I think it was just a storybook, ending for his rookie year. And what do you think kind of really changed for him? Because he was struggling a little bit, obviously, before the postseason, obviously with the sliders and stuff. Mechanically, he did make some changes, but did you notice anything different in terms of like how he conducts himself, especially like in the clubhouse or anything?
He did start to, let the guard down just a tad towards the end. He was very buttoned up and wanted to work harder than anyone else, and wanted to, really make it known that he belonged there and wanted to do everything right. He's the son of a big leaguer. So that was very obvious, and doing all the right things. And in the rookie world, right? There's like a whole other set of rules that you have to follow when you're a rookie that are unwritten, that he followed. And he was on the early bus and he was out there early. I mean, he did all those things right. As I watched him go throughout the season, we watched him struggle at times, never lasted very long, but it was good for him to struggle and then adjust, and watch the pitchers adjust back to him, and he would adjust back to the pitchers. And it was just a cat and mouse game, which is baseball. But good for him to be able to get out of it so quickly and continue to work. He's not a big batting practice guy, so it wasn't like we watched him on the field try to make adjustments and do all these things daily. A lot of that was done underneath, and how much video he was watching, I'm not sure, but he figured out what was right for him. And then when the moment came, he was ready for it. And I think that says a lot about like character. It's like their talent's one thing, but I think it says a lot about them as what's inside of them. And I think him being around and having a front row seat to the entire show last year in the postseason was huge too. Like it it was different, obviously, when you're suiting up and you're running out to your spot in the six hole. But for him, I think to be able to witness some big games, and then to witness a huge loss and losing the World Series, and knowing how that felt, and what the guys felt around him, was all a good learning experience for him. So put all that together, he, like you said, put together kind of a storybook year as a rookie. It's hard to go up from there, right? So this is going to be a true test next year to see how the sophomore season plays out, because pitchers will be looking for him, and where he hits in the lineup, and what Dusty Baker does with him. All that'll be fun to play out.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Pena played so great, and pitchers are obviously going to make adjustments to try and get him out. So, we'll see what happens. And you mentioned him being there with the Astros last year as well, when they lost the World Series. And there's some stories about Carlos Correa giving him advice as well. I'm pretty sure that helped him a lot. And I'm not sure if you saw, but like Pena has become like kind of like a rock star here in Houston. I mean, like the crowd that's all
Oh
over him.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like that video of him working at Raising Cane's, like that was unreal. I mean, he's just become like super popular. I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah, he did. He went on a tour too, like after winning the World Series, to go up on these talk shows, and to go to New York and get his Gold Glove. I mean, he kind of lived it all, and I think you should, especially when you're new, and do it right, do all the things and have all the fun, and kind of soak it all in. You just have no idea when it's going to come back around. And for Jerry Pena, we all obviously all hope it comes back around many more times for him as Astros fans. But I think he did it right. I think he, like, really kind of relished in that moment, and he'll be hungry for more.
Yeah, that's what definitely you want from Jeremy Pena, and he's going to be the shortstop for many many years to come. And Yuli Gurriel, now that we signed Abreu, it's are the Astros going to be putting in Gurriel at some point, or are they going to just let him go? It's going to be interesting to see, because Astros fans definitely want him back. He's played such a huge part for this team. He really stepped it up in the postseason.
Yeah.
What have you really liked the most about Yuli in his time here, like, and what he's brought to the team?
Yeah, I really enjoyed watching him hit in the postseason and coming up with some good plays. just because of the year that he had, and kind of like the trade deadline got really just kind of interesting for him in that position, and the rumors swirling and what they were going to do and who they were going to bring in. And that was a lot for a guy who's kind of given it all to one team since he's been in the States. And his story's great, right? And how he got over here. And of course, like when he got here, a little bit of a culture shock as he tried to work his way up to the majors pretty quickly. I mean, obviously, he didn't have to like play minor league baseball, but they did want him to adjust pretty quickly on like how the games work and how, how long the day is, and the preparation that goes into it. And like he wasn't really into lifting weights when he got here, and they had to kind of teach him like how big strength,
Mm.
how much strength plays into your game, and you have to get on a program, and all of that was like he was figuring it out on the fly. And he wasn't a kid, he was older and established, and then trying to figure out how to hit pitching, he's which was better than anything he's ever faced before. All he did was win a batting title last year. What a great year. He came off a really tough year the year before that. And then I just thought it was a really nice way for him to end last year, just to really kind of step it up and finally get kind of come through after he'd really been struggling at the plate. So like Yuli, fan favorite, as he should be, one of the best. One of the, like, talk about Abreu, and everyone's got the respect for Abreu. People love Yuli, like love him. And when they leave and when they get traded, they continue to text him and they continue to call him, and he just makes people happy. So whatever happens to him, I mean, we will obviously be huge fans. We hope there's a spot for him on this team somehow. I just think that there's never not a spot, right? Like it's Yuli. So we'll see how it plays out, but definitely will always be a fan of that one.
Yeah, for sure. I think even if he moves on, Houston fans are always going to have that, special connection with him. And, looking at the season as a whole, what do you think was, I guess, the most, I guess, unexpected or craziest moment that I guess you saw?
Like going back to how boring the bullpen was and what I said at the beginning, like this team was pretty boring at times. They just won every day. So when you think about like unexpected or surprising moments, like I think the Justin Verlander story really was kind of surprising. We thought he'd be good, right? We thought he'd come back and compete and figure it out. I mean, he's Justin Verlander, but like to put a Cy Young Award season together is kind of insane. Like I think certain guys stepped up throughout the year that will always kind of stand out of being like some of the fun things about 2022, like a Seth Martinez. I think I mentioned him earlier.
Mhm.
Just a really fun story to follow, because it was like, wait, who the heck is this guy and why is he so good, and why can't we find a spot for him in this really good bullpen? There just wasn't enough spots, right? Hunter Brown at the end of the year and getting called up at kind of just the right time to where he made a start in Detroit was really fun. The no-hitter in the Bronx would probably be a moment that was just like, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
This team was good. The pitching staff was obviously excellent, but to shut them down, to shut the Yankees down in the Bronx at the time where they were, I think, had the best record. That offense was still going. I mean, this is before the fall, right? This is before the Yankees struggled. Everybody was talking about them as if they had already won the World Series, and the Astros just came in and shut everybody up. And that was incredible. And it was incredible to see like the team kind of let their guard down and say things that they wouldn't normally say, because they were just like, hey, like, yeah, we got up for this series. And yeah, it's like this is the team that we beat, and they did that. Watching Jason Castro in his last year, I knew that was going to be his last year, so I kind of watched it differently than maybe a lot of people watch. And so when he hit that home run and caught Justin Verlander in that game against the Mets, I'll always remember that as kind of one of my favorite moments. And just kind of, knowing that it might have been his last game was very cool. And then the way that they played in the postseason, like I'll never forget the dominance that went on,
Yeah.
and the way they beat the Mariners in the 18 innings, and then the sweep, all of that, and another no hitter. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Just a dream. It was all a dream.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I mean, only two losses. This team was just on a roll, and they got a no hitter against the Yankees earlier, and then they swept them in the postseason. So I mean, this team was just so dominant, and you're with the guys, all the time during the season. I mean, do you strictly have like professional relationships with all of them, or are you like, I guess, like friends with some of the players' families, or would you consider them like a friend? I guess.
Yeah, no, I get a question a lot. Like, are you friends with the players? And it's like, I work so closely with them. Like,
Yeah.
it's a very unique relationship. Like we're colleagues.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that they're like my best friends. No, I'm friends with a lot of the wives. I've gotten to know them. I've gotten to know the kids. You know, they've obviously had kids since I've known them. The moms, the dads, the sisters, gotten to know a lot of them, and I consider them all friends. When it comes to the players, we just spend so much freaking time together. And
Yeah.
so like, believe me when I say, like, I do not want to go out to dinner with a bunch of them after the game. You know, it's like I just spent all day with these people. Like, no. So that's the uniqueness of this job is like we are just like when they talk a lot about like we spend more time with each other than our families. Like that's very true and it's very real. So when we get time off, like we want to go see our families,
Yeah.
right? Like I'm done with you. I've asked you a million questions. I've seen you all day. And I mean that all like in the best way possible.
Yeah.
It's just a very unique relationship in that I've seen them go through ups and downs. I've seen things happen with their families. I've watched them, you know, at the pinnacle of their careers do some amazing things and had kind of a really cool view and front row seat for it all. So just a very unique relationship, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely have a front row seat for it all, like where you sit during the game. I think that's a really special spot to, watch all the action. I've seen like other reporters are like so impressed by that, area for where you are able to sit during the games. And
Yeah.
like, it's really cool. And what would be like some funny moment that you had with the team during the season? I know there are a lot of stuff that goes on, and what I guess stands out to you.
Yeah, I mean, there's funny stuff that happens literally every day. They're a
Yeah.
mess, and a lot of fun. The Fromber Peanut story, though, is will always be one of my favorites, and just kind of how it played out. Like all of a sudden, that became a thing, and fans jumped on it. And then I was having to deliver peanuts during the game, and Fromber would like tell me to ask the fans for some. I mean, it was like it just took on a life of its own, and I thought that was like that's something that I always remember this team about, right? Like the way that they just like had fun like that. And then my pregame pick, I don't know how long that goes. I don't know if we do it again next year, but taking a pregame pick of this kind of the same group of guys before the game, I looked forward to it, and I couldn't wait to share that with fans because then fans started looking forward to it.
Mhm.
I mean, they then it became like something that they had to do and they were superstitious about. So that's really special to me. Those are probably my favorite moments.
Yeah, you should always do that pregame pick. I don't think you can stop it. Fans really want you to do that. So yeah.
I know, I know. It's hard. We just do it every game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's awesome. And who are some of the guys that I guess are really open and talkative in the clubhouse compared to I guess guys that don't really talk much and are more like work focused?
I mean, I talk to like Martin Maldonado all the time, any chance I can get. Chaz McCormick will talk your ear off if you let him, and he's the best. I enjoy talking to Ryan Stanek, just kind of catching up. Um, there's a bunch of them. Even Jeremy, like I'm always out there early, so Jeremy's always out there early, and I like to just kind of catch up with him on his life and what he's got going on. Those are probably David Hensley's a talker. I've learned he likes to come out and chat it up and see what's going on. Jake Myers, Tucker cracks me up. Never has a serious conversation, I don't think. And then like Altuve, Bregman, like they get in there and they work, so they don't have a lot of time to catch up with them. So you enjoy the moments you have when you do get some of that one-on-one time with them, but they're not just kind of standing around waiting to chat. They're usually in the video room or looking at something or in the cage or they're very very busy. And then the starting pitchers, yeah, I mean like those guys are great. I've been working on my Spanish. Christian Javier, somebody I have to say hi to every day. It's kind of just like, where's Javi? I got to get my smile for the day, make sure he's good and I'm good, and like, all right, we good to go. Just people like that you like to connect with. But yeah, I would say like there's some talkers on this team, no no doubt.
Yeah, I think that's what you definitely want is like I guess as a media person, like you would want these players to talk and obviously they're trying to do their work and it's great to see them put in a lot of, work. And you mentioned Jose Altuve, he had a really, really great regular season and he came out of the gate struggling in the postseason, kind of turned it around during the World Series, hit 300. So what would you say I guess stands out about the way Jose just conducts himself?
Yeah, everyone's watching him and they've always got an eye on him and what he's doing and how he's working and he knows that. So he's always working, leading by example. Doesn't say a whole lot of times, and when he does talk, everyone shuts up and listens. That's just who he is, and he's the heart and soul of his team. And when things are going well for him, like the offense is completely different on a nightly basis, and what he does at the top of the lineup and the way he leads off. There's just this whole different vibe when Altuve has that leadoff home run. The team just kind of knows they're going to win. So it's important. It's important for the team. It's important for Altuve, who just wants to be great. You know, he just wants to hit, and good things happen when he hits. So we hope for many more hits. I've been so blessed to watch most of his career play out this far, and I can't wait to see what happens next for him.
Yeah, for sure. Always rooting for him. He's really, really great. So, definitely we always want him to succeed in Houston. He's become like such a fan favorite. Here, probably I would say like the most loved athlete, I think, like currently, like right now, obviously Hakeem Olajuwon is definitely up there, but
Yeah.
he is he's like people just love him so much down here. And there are obviously like a lot of newer players that come through this Astros team. Jose Abreu is one for next year. But how do you go about it, I guess, building the trust with some of these new players and the relationship with them?
Yeah, and I have to start quick, right? So for Jose Abreu, I can't wait to sit down with him at spring training and start pulling out some of these stories about him. I'm going to talk to other reporters and see what kind of stories they have and their and maybe things that he likes to talk about. It doesn't always have to be on the record, and it doesn't always have to be something I'm digging for. Maybe it's just conversational and a way for me to get to know him. And it goes like that for everybody. And the harder ones will be the relievers and guys that you don't talk to necessarily after every game. I kind of have to work hard at those people, or at getting to those people and connecting with those people. So that's going to be a challenge, as it is every year. I've been really fortunate that the team hasn't changed a whole lot after the last few years. It's been kind of that same core group, and we've been able to kind of just add on to all the things that we know about these guys. So I'm excited to get to know Abreu and others. We'll see. I can't wait to see what moves and who's coming. But then it also goes for the guys in the minor leagues, guys who are in Sugarland. I'm keeping an eye on them. When they do get called up, I make sure to spend a good amount of time with them before they go back down. It's very important to my job, but I can't wait to share some of these new stories with the Astros fans.
Yeah, we're definitely excited for that spring training and definitely hearing more about Jose Abreu and the work that you do. And Dusty Baker was so critical to this team. He really helped change the vibe of this team. Especially after what happened with the scandal and everything. I mean, when he came in 2020, I mean, it just felt immediately more stable when he was there. I mean, how would you characterize Dusty as a person? I mean, he finally won the World Series with him. We're all just so happy for Dusty now.
I know everyone's happy for him. I mean, there's nobody like Dusty. Dusty he's got such a, like, his charisma is just next level. He's fun. He's loose. He's lived through so many different things and been through so many situations in baseball to where it's like you kind of trust him, right? And anything that he's going to tell you. And he listens to guys. He pulls them aside, and then he spends some time talking to them and trying to get something out of them. He likes to kind of find what guys like, and then like whether it's food or something, he'll treat him to that. And that's what makes him special. And so people want to play well for him, and they want him to win. So when you've got that at the top, right? I mean, these guys obviously want to win anyway, but then when you put somebody like that in the middle of it, they love watching him dance and drink champagne out of shoes and whatever the heck he's gonna do. And I think it's great that he's just continuing to build on his Hall of Fame resume, that he's going. So it's just a matter of what he's going in with. But yeah, he wants to win another one.
Yeah, definitely. Just want to keep this run going, and 2 wins, just 2 World Series championships. Want to make it 3 next season. So definitely really excited to watch baseball again and see the Astros play. But that was it, Julia. Those are all my questions. Really appreciate the time today.
Yeah.
I had one request. You think you can give me a follow on Twitter?
Yeah, I'll look for you on Twitter.
Okay.
Yes,
All
we'll
right.
do.
All right. Thank you so much, Julia. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye bye.